Hello all, I'm Liutauras Ulevičius. I'm presenting my initial or intermediary research data from our team of researchers in Vilnius University. Of course, last 10 years we are all looking to the east side of our states and of our neighborhood, and we see many problems. The headline of our news portals, of our media we are using every day, the major focus of our attention. There are various research studies which show that usually the headlines are forming our opinions, not the leading paragraphs, not the content itself, but actually the headlines. But to start with, I would like to invite you to give a short response or feedback on the Slido poll. Just keeping in mind Ukraine, something what is happening there. Could you please try to select one option which from your perspective is the best description of what's going on there? The ideas, the text here, the options here are taken from real sources, and we will see how it's developing during the presentation. We will discuss the results afterwards. So I will just move forward. What's happening, or what's the idea behind the campaign of Words Matter of our Lithuanian Minister of Foreign Affairs? It was the problem ascertained that it depends how we call things. It depends what labels do we attach to various structures, and it actually defines our thinking. It defines and creates the future of the initiatives and the discussions we are looking into. But that's the problem. That's the area we're discussing. We at the university collected a team of researchers and did a simple thing. We asked a media monitoring agency to collect all the headlines in Lithuanian media space, online environment, news portals. No social platforms, no papers, no television, no radios. Only online environment, only online media, which is publicly accessible, no enrollment, no paid fees, totally open content. And we used criteria, war, Ukraine, or special operation, which was a different side. You might notice that it's more or less used by the Russian side to define what's happening in Ukraine. So we're checking who uses what, and do we have any outcomes, do we have any trends, just taking the basic, without any initial bias, pro versus cons, etc., etc. To start with, Lithuanian online media per year produces approximately 1.6 million publications. We are a small country, we are a small language user group, so it's quite a small number of publications. In case we took English language, I can't imagine. It will be hundreds of millions of publications per year, I would guess. Nevertheless, total monitored media channels, approximately 265, plus minus it depends because it changes daily actually. And out of total publication of 1.6 million per year, we took, according to the criteria we used, approximately we got 27,000 in case we use the starting point as February 24th, the official start of events in Ukraine. Okay, so that's in case we take the basic data, in case we take initial coverage, these 27,000 publications, and we divide into weeks. We see a clear spike in February, and afterwards it's lowering down. You could ask what's happening in January and February. Why do we have reports about the war, about the special operation before the war started? The answer is there were talks, there were predictions, there were like forecasts, somehow, somewhere, etc., etc. Coming further, is it big? Just for a comparison, that's a 3 year period, and you can take the not the strong blue line, but the very blue line underneath it. It's Christmas, mentioning the Christmas, and you will see 3 spikes, small spikes during the course of events. The stronger blue line, it's COVID publications. So you see the initially 2020, there is a huge number of publications. Afterwards, it's lowering down. And the green line is war-related or Ukraine conflict-related publications. So you can see that in the initial stage of the COVID was less that initial state of the war publications, war-related publications. So it was a huge topic in Lithuania. It was a huge topic, I think, in all the countries near the eastern border of the European Union. So we tried to formulate several questions for our research, and of course that's the proliferation of disinformation narratives. It's an information war. And information space, it's not only Russian space, it's not only English space, it's not only Ukrainian space. Lithuanian space is also every state's, every language space is a place for information war. And disinformation narratives is one of the tools to measure it, tools to navigate. And of course, we asked, maybe we have some characteristics which could be associated with disinformation-related headlines. Maybe other important characteristics we could take out of this database. Of course, we had a task to classify the portals. This one is objective, this one is biased on one side, another one is biased on another side, etc., etc. And the most important part, of course, the recommendations. As I said, we are in the process. With the insights we are presenting are initial. We are in the process of academic validation, which is peer review process. And of course, we have received lots and lots of feedback. It's not enough to make such strong decision here. We have to add this and this question, etc., etc. But nevertheless, we don't provide answers about the narratives ourselves. We took from the Ukrainian researchers, Alexandra Chekhanovska and Lyubov Cybulska, and they say there are 5 major narratives, Russian-originated narratives about the Ukraine, that it's a civil war, that's it's Russophobia, that's it's Nazism or fascism, that's Ukraine a failed state, Ukraine is a marionette of the West. 5 different stories, and some of these really occur in Lithuanian headlines. You can see, you can pay attention to the red numbers, and although it's rather small percentages, like The highest noticed narrative distribution is 1.4% of publications. So out of 27,000, we have 400 publications, which might be related to the narrative of Ukraine is a marionette of the West. So, yes, it's part of the data set. It's already fixed. What could be in other language spaces? It's an open question. It's a call for other researchers to look inside. Again, when we look into this distribution of narratives, we see different timelines, and that's the timeline on the monthly scale. And you can see that these major efforts on the disinformation narratives, they were not originating in the beginning of the war, but most interesting, they started to develop, and most evident, they were in September and October, in the fall, autumn of last year. Why? One of our guesses, which is still in the production, in the testing case, we look into the problem at most probably disinformation subjects or the authors of the disinformation activity, they were not prepared for the initial phase of the war. They thought it would have been very quick and successful for their side, but afterwards, when the quick version failed, they started to think what to do. And step by step, they started the distribution of these narratives. Of course, that's a hypothesis. We should check this in other information spheres, in other language areas, but the Lithuanian view is rather clear. So, what insights do we have? That's a relatively small percentage of total publications. Maybe resilience of Lithuanian media. We are working on this issue for 10 years after the Maidan in 2013, 2014. The informational resilience, information and literacy efforts were quite heavy from our government, from our defense ministry, etc. And of course, we even closed down quite a few Kremlin-owned media or Kremlin-related media. It was done via the legal regulation and via official court statements due to the distribution of disinformative material. We closed several broadcasting TV licenses, we closed several portals, etc., etc. So it was quite an example. And of course, recommendations out of this: keep track of the narratives, keep track who is distributing what. In case you see the authors, in case you see the gatekeepers of disinformation, it's much more easier to track them down and to fight back. And of course, you have to educate media. You have to provide answers and provide alert system for the media. Just don't get fooled by some kind of a new narrative. We have several cases when fake totalist stories about NATO soldiers raping Lithuanian girls in our national state. It was the first case in 2016, afterwards in 2019. Initially it was successful, afterwards it was minimal results from the disinformation distribution point of view. And that was due to the success of our preventative measures in order to prevent offensive actions. Let's go to another insight, another cross-check about the data. You can see again the highest level. It's a weekly report about the total number of publications. Other smaller major war events. It's Mariupol, a fight for the Mariupol Azovstal fortress. It's about the Bucha massacre. It's about Bakhmut. You can see that in the total number of the publications, the mentioning of the major war events are not that high. Sorry? Total. Total. So, what do we have from the insights on the events related? Comparing to the disinformation related stories, The events-related stories, they are considerably higher. They are the most, it might be up to the 10% of total publications. For example, during the Mariupol stage, when the fight was heavy, yes, quite a considerable number of publications was oriented towards some events happening. And that's the story and the idea for us, to keep track about what's going on, what's on the top line, and we can track to prevent potential disinformation campaigns on that scale, on that area of information. Of course, the problem with the events-related insights is we don't have direct disinformation, because the disinformation is clearly fake stories deliberately distributed towards audience, while fog of war usually covers too much up-to-date stories, because we don't know for sure. When the war is raging in Mariupol, we don't know what's happening inside, because reports are very, very, very seldom, and reports are almost impossible to counter-check or cross-check for the authenticity, for the objectivity. So we have signs of misinformation, but from the academic perspective, we cannot talk about disinformation. We have to be objective for ourselves. We don't know for sure, because the disinformation, what's very important insight, is going from both sides, from all sides in the conflict, and it's very quick trap to get subjectively involved into this discussion. In case you are protecting peace, etc., etc., quickly you can understand that you are also in the process. You yourself might become a member of disinformatory material, and that's a challenging and very, 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 very difficult task for us as a willing people to support peaceful, etc., part of our lives. But in general, the recommendation or the possible solution for that is for such a problem is try to avoid the hostile wording. Whatever you have the content, just stick to the facts. Don't be too emotional. Don't be the judge in the court, but be a reporter, and that's could provide an answer. Okay, so I'm running forward. So the third round for double-checking our insights, it's comparing our war-related information, war-related data to some baseline peaceful event, and of course the COVID-19 is a good perspective, because during the COVID-19 pandemic we had structurally quite a similar situation. We had a very heavy public debates, public war, who is right, who is false, which idea, which representation of the situation is correct. And of course, we are using the sentiment analysis. We are trying to dig deeper into the content of these publications. But the deeper you get into the forest, the more trees you see around, and the more problems to solve, to have a clear and fulfilling answer. We see that we are on the thin ice sometimes, drawing our recommendations and insights. So, but nevertheless, role of narratives is very clear. The narratives are the main track record we have to keep eye on. Role of events, be it fake or being true, it's again an essential part. And of course, best practices. From COVID-19, we see lots and lots of documentation made available publicly, free of charge, for everybody to take and use. One of the examples I just took from the World Health Organization. We have a perfect team of researchers in Copenhagen, I think, and they are working on various. They created a term infodemics, which is slightly populist, but nevertheless, let them go. It's quite catches the problem, because the information we are receiving, we are not quite literal enough, we are not critically sufficient to neglect and be evaluators every time. So, but as I said, this round of comparison to some kind of baseline, comparing the Ukrainian situation, Ukrainian headlines to other stories is in the process, and sorry, but not yet available for the insights. But nevertheless, we have some initial data from first two areas of research, and we see we created 4 different news portals groups, which is the first one is very fact-checking oriented. They are always try to be totally correct. National broadcaster, Lithuanian radio and television, LRT, they are one of these. Sometimes happens, I would say, they are good-willing media, good-willing journalists, but sometimes they are just too automatic, too mechanical. The best example in this case, we are just trying to translate something from other sources and just quickly publish. And it sometimes happens that we are just taking something which was created unethically with disinformation sources, and the result is misleading at the best, or even disinformatory at the worst scenarios. And of course, we have quite clear group of Kremlin puppets. There is quite a small number in Lithuania. As I said, we have a quite strong prevention and legal prevention tools, and most of them are directly closed down. But still, we have quite a strong group of intermediaries which are happy to distribute disinformatory material in order to receive quick populist feedback. And that's quite a new problem when we cannot close them down, because they are acting as a free media. They don't have direct ties to Russian finances, such as Sputnik or such as Russia Today. But nevertheless, they are clearly, on the content side, they are clearly oriented towards support the Russian Federation point of view, whatever it is, just copy-paste. So another insight, another point, what could be the characteristics of these disinformation publications? So the first and the most frequent example is a copy-paste. Someone said something, and you are not checking if it is correct, if it is a total lie, if it is direct fake information oriented to mislead. Usually, for example, Russian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Lavrov, said something. And you can see lots and lots of lie in this citation, but it's copy-pasted and nobody cares. And in fact, we received disinformation material, which is because the mass audience has no competence, has no tools to compare and to check validity of their statements. And that should be the task for the media, to double-check, to provide alternative source. But due to the automatization, due to the cheap media processes, they don't do that. Loaded language or neuro-lingual programming language is another case when we are just using some formats, labels, stereotypes, which are biased in their essence, just puppet state. When you use puppet state, you cannot prove that you are not puppet state in case you are in puppet state, because just it's already your label, it's already a sign which is provided by someone. As I said, the third problem is no fact-checking efforts. Usually it's the first was the most frequent example, citation, but another one is, as already mentioned, automated translation. And you don't check sources, you don't check the validity of arguments, etc. You just publicize. I'm not sure, but we didn't check this, but the ongoing generative artificial intelligence will make much more evident that this is such a problem for a wider scale of disinformation materials. Whatever case, you just would take automated text provided by the ChatGPT or whatever else, and you just publish it, while inside there might be a huge number of misleading or disinformatory material. And of course, the automated repetition is kind of similar, but a bit different when you just, again, in case your salary is based on the number of publications you produce, you just copy-paste the basic materials which already were produced 1 month before, but after 1 month period, major factual situation might be totally different. Mariupol has already fallen, or maybe the Kherson Oblast is already retaken. Nevertheless, you just copy-paste. The journalist is quick to publish, and the problem arises. And of course, the general problem of how all the online media is clickbait related, or willing to attract clicks in no matter what information, no matter half-truth or exaggeration which is happening. Okay, so what to do? One of the general or theoretical response to this, try to reframe discourse. Try to clean it, take out stereotypes, take out metaphors, adjectives, traditions, use fact-based basics. Use facts, and it's very difficult to frame facts. Of course, you can say someone is a liberator or someone is a terrorist, totally different perspectives. But when we say that person X killed 10 persons, you cannot reframe that. It's a fact. And of course, no biases. With a huge challenge here, because we as a pro-democracy, pro-peace, pro-rule of law people, we always have biases, because even democracy is a biased environment. Our basic values of democratic society are already biases, and that's a challenge in some cases. But I don't have a simple answer for this difficult question, so I will leave it for you to contemplate later on. And of course, for recommendations, for clear writing, it's for the press releases, it's for the social media, whatever else. So, narratives, and once more narratives. Pay attention, make a taxonomy, make a categorization, and track record of them. Another interesting insight that too much myth-busting is questionable. In case you are start to produce regular myth-busting materials, sometimes you just raise the publicity of some minor narratives. It's a paradox, but usually there's some minor paradox. They are very slight, as you can see in this headline percentages. Some narratives are very low, several publications per year. In some cases it was 3 or 10 publications per year. In case you publish and put it on the front page of a leading news portal, you make it well known, and somebody will say, okay, oh, what a good idea. Again, they are trying to fix our minds. No, that's the real thing. So, be clear, be thoughtful about this idea. When we talk about the events, please mind the words. Words matter, as in this for foreign affairs. It depends how you name something. We'll look into practice a bit later. And leave decision to the reader, but at the same time you have to measure, not leave too much unanswered questions, not leave citations without fact-checking information, don't leave one-sided information, not providing an alternative. And of course, process-related, don't copy-paste. be wary of the challenges inside. Citations are always a minefield, and policy decisions is our personal decision, but it's again, neutrality in a war is seldom an option. Okay, so what we see from our poll, Russian invasion of Ukraine is the leading one. Invasion war against Ukraine, Russia's war. So, Russian invasion, okay. Invasion war against Ukraine is a bit, from our perspective, from a research group perspective, is a bit not the best option, because it lowers the importance of Ukraine, or means that Ukraine is somehow not equal to the aggressor. It's somehow lower. It's somehow someone can invade. Someone can bring start a war against Ukraine. When you use two sides, Russian and Ukrainian, in the definition, it's a better, more equal and more objective description. Okay, could you please answer the same question once more? We'll check what we have after the presentation. Maybe some ideas would change. Maybe some decisions would be different. And in fact, I think we can leave it for your answers. We can shift forward and comment on later on. Yeah, good.